You know, I just love EMMET and all this is really EMMET material, and I use this every day. And this story is my favorite, and I use it in my daily meditation practice. And when you're looking at this story, we're talking about doing a 7-day mental cleanse. This is actually a daily mental cleanse, okay? And we can break this down into a few parts, and you can practice this every day, and this just gives you phenomenal results. So I'm going to read this through with you. It says, you know, right now I have a case in mind of a woman who has for some time been making a handsome income as a dress designer. Now remember, this is probably written in the 30s during the Depression, so kind of an unusual story, I'm guessing. But that's his time period. Her ideas are so original and so good, she has no trouble at all in commanding very high fees. She loves her work, and she would not change places, she says, with any man or woman on earth. Yet, only a few years ago, she was in great poverty, and apparently there was no way for her to provide for her mother, who was dependent on her. And here's the most important part. Then she began each day to set aside a certain time for becoming quiet, withdrawing her attention from outer things and inviting the power to lead and inspire her with the necessary guidance out of what seemed to be a hopeless, blind alley. She told me that she did not find this an easy thing to do for the first few days because she was so worried by the creditors who were pressing her that it seemed very difficult to stop thinking about her troubles, even for a few minutes. So how do you clear your mind when you have all this stuff going on? Okay. She knew that it was absolutely necessary to do so, however, and she succeeded after the first few attempts, with the result that she first of all experienced a remarkable change in feeling. The worry and fear went first, and then she became aware of a sense of power and adequacy to cope with her problems. The day after this happened, when she was thinking of something quite different, the thought of a certain business acquaintance suddenly flew into her mind, as though, she says, someone had thrown it at her like a snowball. She felt satisfied that this inspiration had come not from herself, but from it, meaning the great universal power of intelligence and wisdom. She went straight off to the person in question, and to her intense surprise received an offer there and then, which at that time was a very attractive one for her. She thought she knew very little about dress designing, but she decided to put that problem too up to the universal power. She continued each day to contact the power in that same way, and day by day the difficulties were easily overcome. Then she began to go to the same source for original ideas to use in her work. Remember that with her, all this had been very much an experiment, and when original ideas began to arrive too, her career was made. Now for me, this is the cornerstone of this whole mental cleanse concept, you know. And how am I going to reach this moment that I need of a completely blank mind, okay? How am I going to go into that state of meditation where it's beyond thought, beyond words, and I'm going to let go all of these thoughts that are troubling me so much, okay? So I didn't develop it, it's right here. I just did what it says here, and now I teach this to people, and I encourage them to do this. So we can break this down into a few steps. It says, she began each day to set aside a certain time for becoming quiet. Okay, so number one, she set a regular, scheduled time. Okay, so for me, this is about 9 a.m. I get up around 7:30 or 8, and it takes me a while to wake up. So that just happens to be the time that I do it. Okay. Then it says, during this time, she was going to withdraw her attention from outside things. Okay. So get quiet, drop all thought, and she's going to achieve the blank mind. Now, this is really different from what we usually think about in terms of prayer and meditation. Usually we think we pray, and then we get quiet, and we sit still, and we listen for the answers to come. Okay? And what this is saying is, probably not. It's probably not going to work that way. It's probably going to go a little differently. Okay? So then the language here is, she invited the power to lead and inspire her with the necessary guidance. So, invite this power to lead and guide. When I do this, I write a note to God or the energy or whatever I'm connected with at that time, and I will write down what is distressing me, okay, so that I can get it off me, so that my mind is going to be able to be clear. All right. Then it says, she cleared her mind, and then at this point, what I'm going to do is set a timer for 20 minutes of this blank mind meditation, where if thoughts come, I'm going to just dismiss them, and the goal is a state of consciousness that is beyond thought and beyond words, where maybe I'm experiencing some kind of a God consciousness or a blending with the energy that certainly does not have me involved in trying to manipulate the situation, okay, or come up with the answer. I'm not doing that now, okay? I asked for the guidance, right? So I set the timer, then I'm going to come out and go about my business, knowing that the answers are coming, but they're not necessarily coming right now. Probably the answers are going to come later when I'm in the supermarket and I overhear something, or I get a knowing that comes over me the next day, or it's not an instantaneous kind of communication usually, but when it happens, I know, and I get that direction. The way they're describing it here, like she was just hit in the head like a snowball, okay? Like when that truth comes to you, you know. And what he's saying is, instead of just trying to plan out my life and scheme it and work it, this is the plan, and on a daily basis, I will present myself to this process and what might happen if I continued to do this. The results might indeed be miraculous.